collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video, and welcome to episode 223 of Ask Boss Bounty. This is the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do have a question for next week's episode and you want to be featured in the video, then be sure to leave that question in the comment section of this video. A couple of things to say before we get on to this week's questions. First of all, a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters and channel members that attended the live stream last night, the private live stream that we did. It was awesome catching up with you guys on that hangout. And congratulations to Anton, who was the winner of the giveaway for the graded U95 Nisa Ewok figure. So congratulations to you. Also want to say a huge thank you to Sakic Score 76, who is my latest channel member. And you are my 50th member on YouTube, so thank you so much for the support. And also to Russell Banks, who has increased their membership to Trandoshan Warrior status. And once again, Russell, I do appreciate the support, so thank you so much for that. Apart from that, I just want to thank everybody for watching last week's Ask Boss Bounty and for putting some very, very kind comments in the comment section regarding the 7th anniversary of my channel, and for listing out, you know, how long that you've supported me. So many of you have been here from the very, very start or near on, and yeah, it's just great that you're still with me, you're still watching, you're still collecting with me. It's just fantastic. What a brilliant community that we have. So thank you so much. Now, with all that being said, if you do happen to enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I think I'm going to hit 29,000 subscribers today, which will be fantastic. So thanks for that. And that being said, let's get on to the first question. Kirby Mock says, happy 7th birthday, Ask Boss Bounty. Question for next week. My suggestion for the next after the Cantina HasLab would be the meeting on the Imperial Superstar Destroyer Executioner bridge, with each bounty hunter retooled and on-scene specific card backs, including a definitive Vader. What are your thoughts? I'd be up for it, especially as they've not been done since the saga releases. I would 100% be up for that, buddy. The only part of that which I would change is that I wouldn't actually make it a HasLab. I don't think it's big enough or grand enough or a dream item enough to be a HasLab. I think you could probably get away with a smaller diorama piece, maybe even smaller than the Jabba's Palace, and then you get the figures out that way. But I'm all for all new bounty hunters, especially Boba Fett and Bossk. Those two need doing desperately. Even IG-88 could do with an update as well, and there's a couple of others as well which we all know need updating, but we've got them in our collection so far. They're not sort of top of my list, need doing, but it would certainly be nice to get updated versions of them. Bender435 says, it would be cool if we got a Mythos Boba Fett. It's a stretch, but do you think they could do it? I actually don't think it's too much of a stretch, to be honest. I was looking at the Boba Fett Mythos on Google earlier. I think Sideshow have done one, and I think they could pretty much get away with this Return of the Jedi Boba, which is an awesome figure, we all know that. And to be honest, I was looking at the Sideshow one, and the only differences really I could see was that he's got soft goods coming down from the belt, which are all like, you know, torn and worn and things like that, and then he's got like a poncho type soft goods which goes around the neck and down, rather than the one on his back there. So I think that they could do it pretty easily. Whether they'll do that is another matter, but I don't think it's a massive stretch, to be honest, because I think the base figure is pretty much there. Jimbo Fett's Toy Tomb says, happy YouTube birthday. I've been watching for nearly all of those 7 years. Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate that. He says, question for next week. Do you think Hasbro will ever sell accessory packs or modular components for playsets like they did with the Cantina bar sections back in the day? Maybe something as simple as a Death Star wall segments with a floor base, or Echo base wall tunnels that can connect. Thanks for the amazing content building up you've done over the last 7 years. Here's to many more years of success. Thank you. So yeah, I think what they need to do first and foremost is get those deluxe figures out of those boxes and then put them on card backs. Put them back on card backs, even if it's a slightly bigger bubble, right? And then they can start using those box sets, battle packs, whatever you want to call them, for proper figures with diorama pieces. Now, I've said this before, I think the 3D community do an awesome job on creating like barrels and boxes and little diorama pieces and things like that, but I don't think there's anything wrong with Hasbro maybe, you know, packing in like a Luke Skywalker, for example, with a moisture evaporator like they did back in, you know, the saga days. You used to get like pieces of the Death Star with Vader and things like that. They've done it in the past. I don't see a reason why they can't do it now. On my display I've got loads of sort of instances where I feel that I would love like an extra piece or whatever. And the prime candidate for that is the most recent Darth Vader from Return of the Jedi, the one with the removable helmet and the, you know, the scarred Anakin underneath. And there was a release back in the Saga series, I think it was, where you actually got that sort of railing, and the railing's been sort of chopped in half with Luke's lightsaber, I think, where he's chopped his hand off. And you could just lean up Vader on that railing. It'd be absolutely perfect for a display. So just little things like that I think they could do. Whether they're going to do it, I'm not sure, because I think Hasbro might think that that sort of thing isn't really worth their time, purely because there's so many awesome, you know, 3D printer guys out there, customizers, that sort of thing, that kind of do that work for them and probably would do it at a cheaper price as well. Tiago Lopez da Silva says, hi there BB, you're a Brazilian fan from MCM London. I was so happy to meet you there. Hope my English didn't come out so bad. Question for next week, do you think we might still get anything special from the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary later this year, now that we have a completely new mold for Jedi with the Acolyte figure? A new Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan at least. Thanks again for the work, dedication to the community. Happy 7th anniversary. I'll post our photo together on Instagram and tag you. Cheers, buddy. Thanks so much for that. And it was awesome to meet you at MCM also. You know, to see fans from all over the world is always great. And yeah, your English was great. So no need to worry about that, my friend. In terms of your question, you know, I think that potentially that figure, the Acolyte figure, could be used as Jedis from, you know, the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But on my Acolyte video, my good friend John Lindquist from the SWTVC did point out that the tunics are ever so slightly different. I'm not really too sure how different they are. I think you could probably get away with repainting them and using them, but it depends how sort of accurate you really want to be. But for sure, it's a great Jedi. It's a really good tunic and everything. Really nice figure, that Acolyte figure. But in terms of new stuff for the Phantom Menace, I think it's quite clear at this point that Hasbro aren't really celebrating the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary as much as they should. In terms of the Vintage Collection, they've kind of put it all together with celebrating the prequels, and we've got a bit from Attack of the Clones, but we haven't really got anything from the Phantom Menace, and I really think we should have done. So it's a big shame that they haven't done that, and I really don't think there's going to be much more, if anything, for the rest of the year. Jared Cantor says, the Falcon is obviously prominently featured in your videos because of its location in your collection room, and I know the barge is off screen but also has a place of pride. Where is the Razor Crest? Also, where do you plan to put the Ghost? And you talked about X-Wings in response to another question, which made me wonder, where are the recent TVC X-Wings that you reviewed in the last few years? Okay, so to answer this question, I do need to go handheld, and as you mentioned, here is my big Millennium Falcon. It's always in the backdrop of my videos, and I currently display mine on a guitar stand. It keeps it nicely, you know, neat in the corner. If you want to display yours in the same way, I will leave a link in the description below for the same guitar stand that I have used. In terms of the Razor Crest, if I just pan around here, I do apologise, but over there is where I'm going to be placing my Razor Crest. It's going to go on top of there, and probably with the N1 if I can fit it as well, and then I'm going to have some of the other figures around. Obviously all of this will become more apparent when I finally get round to doing a room tour, but if you were to see where my feet are right now, you would understand why I can't do a room tour. It's just far too messy. In terms of other vehicles that I have reviewed, I do have some of them on display. So you mentioned the X-Wing. I have the Antok Merrick X-Wing displayed on top of my cabinet here with some of the Rogue One figures. Got a bit of a Rogue One battle going on there. You've got some things from the Mando in there, and then I've got like my vintage snow speeder down there and things like that. So I do display some of the vehicles. I don't have room to display them all. I do have some other ones here. So I have Luke Skywalker's there, and I have the Poe Dameron one there as well. So I do have them ready to display. It's just a case of where I'm going to be able to display them. And in terms of the Ghost, I've talked about this before. In all honesty, I really don't know where I'm going to display it just yet. I'm thinking about getting another cabinet for just there, and then it can go on top of that. The 7th Fleet says, hey boss, great video as always. Probably one of the nerdiest questions ever for the week. Unknown to most, the Cloud Car pilot the TVC figure was based on is the other Cloud Car pilot. The one the original Kenner figure is based on is named Gel Spiel. He doesn't have a moustache. Hasbro made Duncan Hickmat, who does have a moustache. The TVC figure's outfit is based on concept art, much like the original Kenner version, because the full outfit for these pilots has never been depicted. By using the concept art As a base, the TVC figure doesn't even match what little of the miniature models we can see in the film. For example, in the film, the visors are solid black and the head cloth thing he wears should be a medium to dark grey. On the TVC figure, the visors are yellow and the cloth is almost a very light grey. Considering you have stated you want the figures depicted on the card backs of the original 96 figures, and what little Hasbro could have gotten right they didn't by choosing to emulate the concept art, do you believe there's any cause to want an updated, slightly tooled Cloud Car Pilot figure? I think it would be a nice opportunity to get the figure back out in the line while offering collectors who have the original figure value in getting a new one. So that is a nerdy question, but I like it, buddy. I really do. And I've got the Cloud Car Pilot in question here, both the card back and the loose figure. And you're right, he does have the moustache. And you're also right in that the outfit doesn't really sort of depict what is in the film. I've always kind of noticed that, even with the original Kenner figure as well. I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch for them to sort of change that up and give us a new Cloud Car Pilot. I've got a feeling that this one was a bit of a peg warmer back in the day anyway. They've already got the original 96 card back out there. They've probably got this one well ticked off and probably think that they never have to revisit it again. But I do like the question, and yeah, it would be nice to get an absolutely, you know, screen accurate Cloud Car Pilot, but I think this is probably going to be the one that we're going to be living with for the foreseeable. With all the other things that they've got to do and make, I would think that the Cloud Car Pilot, considering we've already got this one, is quite far down on the list, my friend. But I like the question anyway, man. I like this information. Sean SS8RB says, question for next week. Hi boss, been watching for a few years now and have learned a heap about the hobby through your videos. Thanks for what you do. My question is, why doesn't Hasbro have most of the main characters constantly for sale? Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, 3PO, R2, Anakin, Yoda, Obi-Wan, etc. I assume most people getting into collecting probably want the main characters. Seems like a missed opportunity to get a new collector's sales. So I think this all just comes down to the factory. I think they can't, you know, just have figures in constant production, and also I don't think there's the market for it anymore. I don't think they can just have all of these figures out on the pegs. You're absolutely right though, the main characters are the ones that sell the best, but I think once you've sold them to the collectors and a few other people, I think having them in constant rotation like that or constantly on the pegs, I think that's going to be too much. Things like Stormtroopers, Troopers, I do believe that it would be good for the line to have a constant flow of those. But, you know, asking a factory to just do that figure for the next 3 years is going to take that slot up for other figures that they want to do. So they can't have, you know, thousands of factories doing loads of different things at once. And I think that's probably the main reason why they don't do it. And also because obviously figures become out of date pretty quickly as well. So, but I think with the main characters, I think they always try and have like an iteration of the main characters. So like we're getting the R2 again, we're getting the Luke Skywalker and his X-Wing pilot reissued. So, you know, they do try and keep these main characters out there, just not, you know, in his main outfit at all times for the next 3 years. It just kind of just doesn't work like that anymore. Stephen Angel says, hey Bossk, happy 7th anniversary of the channel. I've been watching since the pandemic pretty much. I think that's right when I started to get back into collecting. My question for next week would be, what do you think constitutes a background character, getting a figure made of them or not? For instance, I know the Tonica sisters and Hammerhead are highly desired, particularly now that we know the Cantina is happening, but why are characters like the Mandalorian Fleet Commander getting figures made in both scales? If he stood out as a super cool looking or has a big moment in the show, it would make sense, but to a passing eye he looks like Jango Fett and captains a big ship in one episode that he's in. I totally understand the sort of idea behind the question, buddy, but I've just placed a few figures there in front of you to show you exactly why. So if you look at these, and if you look at these, and if you look at the Fleet Commander and other Mandalorians that we've got, and unfortunately, you know, as much as we love getting new figures, and we do get new figures, there is also a lot of reusing parts and repainting parts and things like that. And they have to do that basically. They can't just make a figure and then it never gets used again. So unfortunately, TVC and the Black Series has had, in my opinion, too many repaints and reuses of late. And I think they need to fix that and give us more variety. But that is why they do the Fleet Commander, mate, because it's easy for them to do and cheap for them to do. You know, a background character, as you mentioned, is Hammerhead, for example. That's going to cost them a lot of money to do. And is there any reuse out of that? Maybe they could use the head or something to get the Prime Minister guy from the Book of Boba Fett, or maybe there's a few other uses that they could get out of it, but nowhere near as much as like a trooper or an astromech droid. I mean, look at the Obi-Wan series, you know? So that tells you everything. Like 3 figures there, all got the same legs. So that tells you everything. Rather than, you know, where's the 5th brother? Where's Ned B? Where's the other Inquisitors? There you go. Mitchell Gum says, hey Tim, happy anniversary to the channel. I think I've only been watching for about 1.5 years now, but I've gone back and backtracked quite a bit for specific videos of older characters and playsets. I still use Rebel Scum Archives quite a bit as a reference tool for the older modern lines, and your older videos are quickly becoming my main resource for research details for TVC 2.0 figures. Very much appreciated. Question for next week. With the talk of Bobas from Book of Boba Fett last week, what is your #1 figure from that show that Hasbro has not released yet? I definitely need the Gamorreans to complete my throne, as mine is actually geared towards Book of Boba Fett. But it's also just a sin that Garza Fwip has not been released on single card. She is one of the best looking twees we've ever seen, and Danny Trejo with the Rancor seems like a no-brainer also. Yeah, I mean, both of those characters I would like. I would probably say they're not really sort of main characters that we're ever going to get, in my opinion. For me, the figure that we need mostly from the Book of Boba Fett is the Pikes. I feel that we've got a lot of the other characters, but we just don't have anyone for them to fight, essentially. So this one is from the Solo film, I know that, but it is a Pike. This is Key Tolsite, but he is a Pike. I just think the Black Series have that Pike Syndicate Trooper, and I think, you know, we could do with a bunch of those basically in TVC. And I think that's probably the most required figure from the Book of Boba Fett now. Having said that, I would like the Gamorreans. You're absolutely right. I actually watched an episode of Book of Boba Fett the other night with the Gamorreans in it, and although they are slightly different to the Return of the Jedi version, they don't have the skirt on or anything like that, they still look pretty cool, and I would like them. But first and foremost, it's got to be the Pikes for me. Adam Gamble says, will we ever see a Star Wars figure made of Beilert Valance? Such a cool character who never got a figure. So yeah, this is that like cyborg bounty hunter from the comics, right? I think. I'm pretty sure I've got a John Tyler Christopher cover with him on the front. And, you know, it's one of those ones, isn't it? It's from that media which, you know, you've got to be into to know who it is. I'll put an image on the screen if anybody out there doesn't know who he is. But it's one of those ones, and it's one of those ones also that I haven't really seen come up too much in things like March Madness and other fan polls. So I think it's probably quite unlikely that we would get that figure. I think he would need to be doing well in those sort of polls for a figure to be made, in all honesty. I think he's just a bit too niche, if you ask me. Stephen Vasic says, hi Tim, do you think we'll be getting a first order snowtrooper in TVC or in a 4-pack soon? I think they've been overlooked, as you can get them in the Black Series or 5 POA, but very difficult to find in TVC, only in the special fold out display pack, I think. Enjoy your show a lot. Have been following for about 5 years now. Keep up the good work. Thanks. So no, the first order snowtrooper has never been made in TVC. Unfortunately, TVC came back after The Force Awakens had been out a little while already, and you know, the sequel trilogy from then on didn't really do so well. It divided the fan base, and I think at the moment they're trying to avoid going there basically, especially in terms of like new tooling. They repacked Finn. That was an easy one for them to do. Get him in the line on a card back, but a snowtrooper, and it is a shame because some of the designs in the sequel trilogy are really, really good. I love the look of that first order snowtrooper. He's awesome, but I just don't think we're going to get him anytime soon, my friend. I really don't. I think sequel trilogy stuff is just a bit of a risk for them at the moment still. Molcule says, great vid as always. Question for next week. We have gotten several characters from the Kenobi series and TVC, the Black Series, even the Retro Collection. Figures like Reva, Ned B, the Grand Inquisitor, and even a Jawa. Why have we not gotten 2 characters that were a huge part of the story? Young Luke and Leia. I think Young Luke would be easy. Hasbro could reuse the Slave Boy Anakin with some retooling and repainting. Young Leia would obviously require an all-new figure. Do you think we could ever see these 2 figures? So, in all honesty, I'm not really too surprised that we didn't get those 2 figures. I think the Luke Skywalker didn't really have a big enough part in the show for me. And when we're talking about figures for the Obi-Wan series, I mentioned them in a question earlier in the video. You know, we've got 3 Obi-Wans there, and we've got 2 Darth Vaders, and then I think we've got a couple of other figures, but not a lot else. you know, there's so many characters from the Obi-Wan series that I would want way before a young Luke Skywalker. I would want the other Inquisitors. I would want Ned B. I think they've had bigger parts. Young Luke didn't have a big enough part in it for me. And I personally think there's lots of older Luke Skywalkers that we still need in the line way before a 10-year-old Luke Skywalker. Young Leia did surprise me that they didn't do that, especially in the Black series, but they must be thinking, you know, the guys at Hasbro, they must have some reason for not doing it. Maybe it's as simple as that they just think, you know, a figure of a 10-year-old girl is just not going to sell in as an action figure, regardless of it being one of the biggest characters of all time from Star Wars in Princess Leia. I think that must be the reason. I personally look at those two and, you know, they're not really high up on my list. As I said, with the Obi-Wan series, there's so many other figures I want before those two. Muftak293 says, great job as always, Tim. Been with you since the beginning. Thank you, buddy. He says, are we getting a HasLab announcement on June the 3rd? Well, I can see, buddy, that you asked this question 6 days ago. So considering that the 3rd of June is now tomorrow, I can safely say I highly doubt it. If it came out of the blue tomorrow, I would be incredibly surprised. They need to hurry up though, don't they? Because at this point in time, everyone pretty much knows what it is. And there's even more leaks now about what's included. And if you look at those, they look fairly legit to me. I think it's going to be awesome. I really do. It just needs to be announced now. And my worry is that they leave it until San Diego Comic-Con, for example, because I am aware that I think G.I. Joe are getting a HasLab. Have they not already sort of pipelined that? And they won't want those to run concurrently. So, yeah, I can safely say that I don't think it'll happen tomorrow. But when it'll happen, I just don't know. I really do hope that they hurry up and announce it though, because, you know, speculation when people kind of know what it is but don't know the full details is never good. It's never good because, you know, people will sort of moan about things when they're not really clear on exactly what's included and things like that. So they need to hurry up, man. Star Wars Toy Box says, hey BB, congrats on 7 years. Long time watcher, first time asking a question. Question for next week. Do you think the 2 Acolyte figures we're getting are going to suffer from the same fate as Hunter? Or do you think we'll get more robust release of characters from the new media? Also, do you think we'll ever get a new female Jedi body sculpt updated to current TVC standards? Think of the robed characters like Baltar Swan, Stas Ali, Jaina Solo, etc. Thanks and congrats again. So the second part of your question there, I really do hope so. When they visit the female Jedi from the Acolyte, I'm hoping that'll be an all new sculpt like they've done with the Black series. I haven't actually looked at the Black series one though. Is the female one different to the male one? I sincerely hope it is. And you're right, giving us a new female Jedi body sculpt would then open it up for other figures that we could get that aren't from the Acolyte. In terms of the Acolyte, I feel it's going to be one of those ones where they are going to be testing the waters to see if the show is successful or not. The last thing they want to do is give you 10, 15 figures, spend all that money, and then they not sell because nobody likes the show. So hopefully the show's good. Hopefully it's well received, and hopefully then they will invest in more figures. I am pretty sure that there is going to be one more Acolyte figure in the Vintage Collection. We've already had 2 pipelined. I've reviewed one of them, the Jedi Master Soul. That's on the channel already. We've got May, is it, as well, the assassin. I think she's actually called the Acolyte, right, in the show. I'm judging that by the trailer. But I think we're getting one more this year, and then obviously going forward it'll be drip fed, because like they've done with Andor and other things like that, it took us a while to get more Mandalorian figures, didn't it? So that's how I feel that they'll do it. Plus we've got the Skeleton Crew coming out at the end of the year. We'll no doubt get some figures for that as well. So you've got lots of new media, lots of new figures to do. They can't do them all, and they'll make us wait for sure. All right then guys, that's it for this week's episode. If you haven't checked out my review of the Clone Wars Escape from Order 66 4-pack, that is on the channel. It's my most recent review. I've also reviewed Jedi Master Soul and the Princess Leia figure. They're on the channel if you haven't checked those out already. They have been live since last week's Ask Boss Bounty. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support means a great deal to me as always. Thanks for watching everybody, and we shall see you on the next one.